Start. Hello, everyone. Welcome to another Viterbi Startup Garage Oceanside Chat. Today, we're very lucky to have Steve Kazan, or is it Kazan?
Kazan.
Kazan, joining us from Inner Onion to talk a little bit about sales for startups. Steve has spent a career in various technologies, learning how to market and sell solutions to customer problems. He works with companies both large and small, and local and globally. And I think I overheard you talking and saying that right now it's a very international perspective that you're taking with companies, bringing them local from an international market. He loves mentoring and volunteering for worthy causes. He's definitely interested in measurements and the results. And he's currently the CEO of an international consultancy. And so, Steve, I will pass you the mic and let you give us a little bit more color to your background. If you want to, you can jump right into your presentation. We're so lucky to have you. This is a big issue for startups. And so thank you so much for spending time with us.
God, what an introduction. Thank you. I'm blushing, or I should be blushing. Let me also introduce Nasser Sageb. Nasser's on the call today as well. So he is my partner in crime, my co-founder. We started our company Inner Onion a year ago. So we are entrepreneurs as well. And we are bumping our toes and bumping our heads into all the issues that entrepreneurs bump into. But, you know, we try to keep learning and improve as we go. So in front of you is a slide with a little bit of an agenda. We're going to talk about early topics, more broad and general, and then I think the stuff that you guys are most interested in will be towards the end. There's a teaser for you. But feel free to raise your hand, ask questions as we're going, use the chat. I'm happy to stop what I'm doing and address questions as we go. Does the slide look okay? Can you see the full slide? Great. Okay, Nakia, thank you for that. All right, just a little bit of background, more background on me. Came out of technology companies, but a very various kinds of technology. So from IoT to CAD to AI to data center and servers and routers and software and SaaS and all kinds of different stuff, cybersecurity. So I enjoy learning about different technologies in different markets, and then applying sales techniques and channel development techniques to those various markets and those various situations. And it always changes. There's always a new technology, both on the customer side, but also in the sales and marketing side. It seems like every 6 months. So it's part of the challenge and part of the kind of enjoyment and fun of working in technology. As RC said, I'm global in coverage now. What Nasser and I do with Inner Onion is bring companies to the US and Canada. We do sales enablement, marketing, and logistics. So we have a nice office in San Francisco. So if anyone wants a Silicon Valley address, we've got that in an old brick warehouse, which is kind of cool. And we have lots of connections. So through our years of working, if people need specialists, lawyers, technical folks, odds are that we can find somebody in our networks that can add value. So as I was saying the other day, if we're nothing if not a couple of helpful guys. So that's plenty about me. Let me just keep rolling through. A little bit about Inner Onion's legacy. So my great uncle, A.E. Joe, came from Istanbul, Turkey, and started a rug business and brought that rug business to New York City in the downtown New York, sold to wealthy, New York people. And he wrote a book about management and about life. And he was profiled in the New Yorker. And as you can see, he actually sold or printed 4 versions of this tiny little book and sold them in Macy's. So we have a legacy and a history of helping companies come into the US. And I think, it's been fun and interesting because we talk to folks from Europe and from Australia, and we talk to investors and lots of different technology companies and dog companies and SaaS companies. And so anyway, so that's a little bit about Inner Onion. I'm happy to go on and on about that, but I think we want to move forward. So let's set the scene a little bit. You had a presentation from Joe Benjamin about sales 101 kind of for startups. I listened to that presentation twice, and I had lunch with Joe last week. So if you haven't listened to that, I would say get the heck over to YouTube, listen to that, and then follow Joe on Twitter, and then download his book. So I have a copy of his book. I printed it out this morning. I've shared it with friends. It is just a very simple, basic, if you're a small company and you're getting started, here's the stuff you should do. So what I've tried to do is add on to the things that he has said, and maybe add a little color in some other places and focus more on partnerships. So assuming you have some traction, a little bit of traction, you've done your research, you've done your planning, you've got a couple customers that like what you're doing, you solved their problem, you've eased their pain, you've got a couple of case studies. And so the next question is, okay, so where do you go from there? Where do you expand, and how do you expand through both growth and various partnerships? So that's going to be the talk we go through today. One of the things we talked about is process. And in building any company, you need to have those processes written down, agreed upon, and work to improve those processes. What's interesting is the sales process that you talk to clients and customers and prospects about is really, really similar to the process that you would use to create partnerships. So if you're creating channel relationships, global partner relationships, whatever it happens to be, the first very important step is to sit back, get a big whiteboard, and put your plan and your strategy together, right? So what types of partners do you need? How will they help you grow? What's the best timing for those? And how does that help you vis-a-vis your competition out in the marketplace? So that's, not to be underplayed. One of the homework assignments is for you to sit down and figure out what your partner strategy is going to be, and look at it kind of in the long term. From there, the steps are relatively the same as the sales process. You're going to find your prospects, and we'll help you with that. You'll do your little pitch. Your pitch for a partner is going to be similar because they're going to want to know about your business, but they're also going to want to know what's in it for them. So their needs, their pain points, what they're trying to solve is going to be a little bit different than your customers. And so you need to be very sensitive and understanding and thoughtful about that. And as you work your way through the process, you'll have to sell to typically a larger organization with multiple players. And then once you get it done, you'll have to do it again as you grow up your ecosystem. So as I talked about the more general amorphous topics, credibility, I just wanted to put that out there and make sure that that's sort of the foundation and the baseline of all partnerships. In all the years of experience in working with people, if you are honest and straightforward with your partners, they will be your partners for life. If you tend to, spin them, give them some marketing language, they will slice right through that. They will see that, and that's probably the last phone call you're going to have with anybody who's a potential partner. So I would say be as brutally honest. Let them know, hey, you're a young company. If you haven't gotten to something or you haven't done something yet, just be very upfront with them, and earn their trust and earn their credibility. So let's talk a little bit more as we go through about credibility. There are tips and tricks around public relations, around generating and chasing down influencers, and around branding. I think all of those first three can be done even by startup companies that are very small. Once you have a product, once you have a sale, the small companies that I've worked for have been really good at doing public relations and even branding. And that was one of their, earliest marketing activities. And it really paid off. They got their name in the press, they gained that credibility. And that helped them drive their partnerships, because they were able to go to their prospects and say, read this article, look at our happy customers, here's our brand, and the whole marketing story was cohesive and very professional. So, don't think that just because you're young and you're early that you can take your eye off that, the early branding and PR and marketing activities that have to get done. Now, we'll spend more time talking about the partnerships. And the one topic I would say is to be as professional as possible. So if you have a presentation, make it professional. If you have slides, make them all look good. And then just treat all those relationships as professionally as possible. The other thing I guess I would say would be, on the scorecards. The scorecards have come the last few years. They're a big deal. They can make or break companies, but typically there's a cost to them. So they will charge you to post your company up on their scorecards. So it's something definitely to take a look at, to evaluate. Sometimes it makes monetary sense and ROI sense, and sometimes it doesn't. But customers today are making buying decisions and doing their research by going to websites, by going to trusted sources like the G2s and the Capterras and the Trustpilots. So by being there, you're in the game. If you're not there, in some situations, you won't be considered or even known about. All right, moving along. Let's get to more specifics. All right, let's talk about partnerships. The reason we're all here. Typically, any sort of partnership, the idea is that you're going to broaden your market coverage. In the old days, it was geographic, so you didn't have salespeople in every city or corner in America. So you had channel partners who could resell your product, through all 50 states, and that would give you access to customers, retail locations, whoever it happens to be. These days, that's less important because a lot more sales are done online. The latest trend is to have a set of partners that will refer leads to you. They get paid a referral fee, and then on the back end of that sales process, they earn money through services. So the actual sale goes through the vendor. The vendor takes the sale. It's easier, it's faster, it's quicker, but referral partners track those sales, vendors track those sales, and they earn a sales commission on that, as well as they earn service revenue for implementations, customizations. And so that's been a trend in the last, say, 2 to 3 years, where the reseller channel has become less important and the referral channel has become a whole lot more important. So if you're looking for different partners, just folks making referrals might be, as good or even better than companies out there that might be reselling your technology. Distributors are still out there. A lot of those distributors create marketplaces. The marketplaces are useful sometimes to post your products on those marketplaces, and then you refer clients, you push clients to those marketplaces, and then that's how customers find out about you, and they actually, buy your service or your product. Distributors can give you a huge broad reach. So they can contact thousands of resellers and get you in front of those thousands of resellers. They can train those thousands of resellers. So potentially it's a good fit for some technology companies. Other companies, you'll do it on your own. You'll put your own product on the marketplace. For example, the AWS marketplace makes or breaks clients that have AWS products or SaaS products. And there are a handful of others. I think Microsoft has its own marketplace. And so getting up onto multiple marketplaces sometimes is a good strategy. However, each one of those takes work and takes time and takes management. So, don't think that you can just set it and forget it. You have to get up there and make sure that the data is good and your marketplace presents you in a full and complete and positive, comprehensive way. And then lastly, strategic partners. So here's where there's a big opportunity for startup companies. Even the largest of the large strategic partners are looking for smaller new technologies that they can bring out to their clients and their customers. So you might get the advice that, don't go sell to the largest of the large enterprises because they're not going to buy from you. But some of the largest of the large will partner with you if you have a technology that is unique and interesting, that differentiates, and they can bring it with value add out to their clients. So I've got a couple cases coming up in the next couple of slides. We'll talk about that. In terms of dollars and cents, one of the big reasons that you would use partners and channel partners or strategic partners is to lower your cost of getting out to market. And this is, it's a great platitude, but not a lot of people actually do the analysis, right, to measure what their cost per lead is and what their cost per customer is. So I would say, as part of your strategy, your planning, try to come up with at least targets and then measure your actuals against those targets to understand what your cost of each lead is and your cost of each sale is, the cost of new customers. So don't give that a short attention. I think the other thing is, once you've gotten through the why and the who, how you're going to do this is kind of key to your success. As I said, you want to differentiate your product from other products that potential partners are looking at. Why are you better? Why are you more interesting? And I think an easy way to differentiate yourself is to be agile and responsive. So if they're looking at technology partners that are larger and more bureaucratic and slower, you guys have a ready-made advantage, and you should definitely take advantage of that. By proving to your either prospective partners or existing partners that you are better, faster, more responsive than anyone they're working with. And I would say sometimes you have an inside sales team that are doing lead generation. Make sure your inside sales team is aligned with your channel partners or your whatever sort of partners you're working with. Make sure they understand the role of each of them. Make sure if it makes sense to share leads between your partners, either inbound leads from your partners or leads that come to your website that you can share out to your partners. That's just like gold. That's just like coinage. If you have people that are coming to your website asking for information, you're capturing their email address and information, and you can hand that back out to a partner, that partner will be loyal to you as long as the day is long. So if you can generate that sort of internal activity or information, and then push that out and share that, that's a huge, that's going to be a huge win, a huge feather in your cap. So let me take a breath. How's everybody doing out there? Questions? Comments?
There aren't any questions from the group right now.
All right.
I had a question. So, you had mentioned that partnerships and referrals are huge. And that, you shouldn't maybe be so concerned about tackling like an enterprise sized customer, because they could really help when it comes to those things. But I find it pretty challenging for early stage teams to target enterprise when they're doing sales. Oftentimes, especially if it's software, like they want first to make sure that they're able to provide services to the smaller companies. And I'm wondering if you have any advice, or if they're wrong, if it's just hesitation because they're nervous about kind of like missing a big whale. And so they go for the smaller fish. Do you have anything to say about that?
Yes. So a large partner is going to do due diligence on you the same way an investor would. So they're going to want to know, is your machinery set up? Do you have processes? Do you have systems in place to provide training to clients? Do you have tech support set up? Can you take a phone call 7x24? What's your turnaround time on system down issues? So you better have good answers for those when you walk in there, because they're going to ask you that. The other thing to think about is when you're selling even a partnership, you have to understand the what's in it for them, for each of the people in the role. So you'll have a primary contact, but the purchasing person has their what's in it for them. The finance person, the salesperson, everybody you're dealing with is going to want to understand, okay, how does this new partnership benefit them? And how do they take it to market, and how do they benefit their customers? So when you do your analysis of your partnership and you do your strategic plan for that partner, you need to look at the various users or personas across that potential partnership. The last thing I guess I'd say is the sort of partnerships are like that machine. You're going to get leads in at the front end of that. The lead is going to move around. It's going to travel around. It's going to bump around. And then you have to have all the gears and all the pieces of that process connected. It's relatively easy. You can generate a lot of names, hear a lot of target companies, but if you don't have the handoff from step A to step B to step C, and the follow-up, and even the support on the back end, then you're not going to have a process that works and is repeatable, and is going to be successful in the long term. So
we do have now some questions queued up. I'm going to pass it to Tim. Tim has a question from the chat, and then it looks like Panos also has a question from the chat. So first Tim, then Panos. And again, guys, the hand raise function will queue you up a little easier. So please, if you know how to do that, do that.
Hi, Steve. Tim here in Houston. We make products for the marine industry, and you might say grease and gears as opposed to bits and bytes. And we're looking to scale. Things are going well, and hence I'm watching you now. So does this philosophy, this approach, apply equally well to things that don't move at the speed of light?
I would say yes. I would say there's the process of finding leads and finding partners and finding influencers works just as well with non-digital products. You have to think about who those other people are and how to get a hold of them and how to find them and what their motivations are. But yeah, we have clients that are looking for non-digital things, and so we're working with those guys today. Let me run through just a couple of stories for you. Or was there another question? Somebody else want to jump in? Yes, no? Okay. The first one is picking targets. So there's a company called Guideline. It sells 401k to small businesses, like one-person, two-person businesses. And they were a startup. They were young. They were 50 employees, and they were looking for a partner that also sold to small businesses. And the name that they came up with was Intuit. They sold TurboTax and they sold Intuit Accounting to small companies. And Intuit had tens of thousands of small companies as their clients. And so what Guideline did was they found a person and they hired that person who had the in at Intuit to create that relationship. And then what they did was they went to Intuit, they signed the deal with Intuit, and now they have a lead sharing deal. And Intuit is sending them thousands or tens of thousands of leads every day. And what was cool about what they did was they thought ahead to say, let's find somebody that we can hire and bring into our organization. And they had at least a year thinking about that before they were able to do that. So huge lead source for Guideline. And now Guideline has 400,000 users on their system. So they've just taken off. The next case is Moogsoft and Orange Business Services. So Orange Business Services, huge global company headquartered in France, tens of thousands of employees. The US branch had probably thousands of salespeople. And Moogsoft was tiny. Moogsoft has, I don't know, 150 employees, 200 employees. But what was interesting about that was that Orange really liked the technology. So it was the technology play, and Orange used the Moogsoft technology to differentiate itself from KPMG, from the other big six accounting firms that would go in. And one of the ways that we were able to kind of win over Orange Business Services was just to be very, very organized, professional. And we knew what their motivation was. We knew why they wanted us. And they walked us into, global 2000 accounts, one after another. So our salespeople on the Moogsoft side just loved it. This was the best partnership they'd ever seen. So the last one, Adalom and Microsoft. Adalom was an Israeli security company. They had about 15 people in the US and about 50 people in Israel. So again, pretty small company. We established channel partners, reseller partners, business development partners. But at some point, Microsoft knocked on the door and said, hey, we want to, partner with you because we like your technology and we like how you're doing it. And the founders of the company basically dropped everything, flew to Redmond from Tel Aviv, spent 4 days in Redmond, and then went back 2 or 3 months later. And then about 4 months after that, Microsoft said, yeah, you're a great company. We want to buy you. So when you're looking at your partnerships, the strategic ones, the large ones, basically are potential acquisition partners. And if it's large enough and if it's going to be productive enough, and you're a founder, you need to spend your time, helping with sales, but also helping with these large strategic, partnerships as well. So, any questions about those?
We did have another question from Panos. I think it might have preceded that slide. Panos, are you still there? Would you still like to ask your question? Maybe not. This question was about approaching big established companies for partnerships. Not sure if.
Okay, yeah, I'll get to that coming up because that's a good question. This slide has come up, I think, the communities, using the various communities and getting engaged in the communities. Yes, you can meet people, find people. What's sort of interesting is we use it to meet people providing services. So if we need a marketing person or a designer or whoever, I'll go to the Slack channel that I'm a member of, and I'll say, I need somebody to do X, Y, and Z. And I get a referral within minutes. Call Joan over at this phone number and, she will solve your problem for you. The Clubhouse was funny. I needed to do some research on NFTs. So I went up to an NFT discussion and I got up on stage and I said, hey, I'm new to Clubhouse. Can you give me the 5 places you would go to research NFTs? And within 3 minutes, I had the best sources, the best people. And basically I just wrote down all the notes. I typed those notes out, and then I was able to then share those notes with my clients and say, here's everything you need to know about NFTs. And so I suspect, the other groups within Clubhouse, similar kinds of reactions if you are, bold enough to get up on stage and basically admit your lack of knowledge and have them, support you and help you. On LinkedIn, that's an area that we use quite a bit. Sales Navigator and also the groups within LinkedIn. So There's probably some groups around maritime and boating and that within LinkedIn. And so becoming a member of those groups and becoming active in those groups will introduce you to people who are potential customers, prospects, influencers, consultants, partners. So that's definitely something I would, encourage you all if you haven't done that yet. If you're selling, business to consumer, B2C, creating an Instagram persona, creating a TikTok, presence. It seems like those are the top places to go. But again, when you're building out your plan, focus on 2, 3, 4, but don't focus on too many because you're just not going to have the bandwidth. If you have somebody that you can delegate this to, it can become a full-time job. So, somebody young, energetic, smart can take over that and own that, and you can delegate this work over to them. You just need to make sure that they're consistent in their messaging and their branding. Anyway, that's about communities. All right, let's get into some dirty details. So you're looking for partners. You're trying to get into global, large organizations. How are you going to do it? Well, you're going to start by figuring out, who the target personas are within that large company. Who really wants to talk to you? Is it the engineering team? Is it the marketing team? Is it somebody within sales? So part of the exercises that we do is we do this persona definition and targeting. And one of the things that we make sure we do is figure out what their motivations are. So how is that person going to get promoted or get their next job? What's their biggest pain? What keeps them up at night? And then when we meet them and have those conversations, we ask them that question. What is it that drives you? What is it that that scares you? And what is your buying authority? And from that, we tune this kind of analysis, and then we're much better able to go into a large organization and present that type of partnership. So very, very similar analysis that you would do for your end clients, you can also and should also do for your larger partnerships. Now, if it's a simple partnership and you're going to do it online, you don't have to get into this level of detail. But if you're going to be investing in a strategic partnership and it's going to take some work and some time to get in, then this sort of analysis will save you time and trouble and make your prospects much more likely to be successful. The second step on this is creating the sequences and the messaging. Creating the right messages for me is the hardest part, right? Writing an email or an intro that is short and crisp and concise and creates an emotion that's going to drive a response. That's kind of the hardest thing for me to do. And you want to do that in a series. So you don't just want to, have one email and then just dump it. The first email is really just to get somebody interested enough to read the second email or to get them to acknowledge who you are or accept your invitation. And from there, you're going to offer more value, but you don't really need to, offer them a product pitch or a presentation until you have a couple, 2 or 3, 4, emails into your conversation back and forth. Now, again, this is where your reputation and your credibility comes in. If your online presence is credible and thorough and you have, some sort of expertise, then the response that you're going to get from these messages will definitely be, that much better and that much more deeper and engaged. So with that, let me just pause real quick, see if there's a question or two. And if you need help doing this stuff, if you want to use these templates, get a hold of us after we're done. We can help you, get through the details of these.
I don't see any questions in the chat and nobody has their hand raised.
All right.
I think you're safe to, I think you're safe to go on.
All right, very good. Okay, so tools. So here's a place where the world is changing quickly, and it's changing. It seems like every week it's changing. We have spent a lot of time working with clients on LinkedIn Sales Navigator. It's relatively inexpensive, $80 a month, something like that. But it's very helpful in finding the right people. So the same way you could use this to find prospects, again, you could use it to find the right people for your partnerships. So if it's a large strategic partner, you want the VP of marketing or the CMO or the VP of engineering in charge of AI, or the maritime engineer, by using the keywords, using the filters within LinkedIn Navigator, you can generate that list of those people. And then once you generate that list, then the tool Duck Soup scans those lists and can do lots of different things. One of them, they can create a list for you of those people that can then be exported to a spreadsheet. But they can also send an invitation from you to all of those people on that list. So if those people on the list you've created are focused and targeted, and they're potential partners or potential prospects, they will get an invitation from you specifically. And once they accept your invitation, assuming that you've sent them an interesting enough message or greeting, then they're fair game. And you can send them attachments, links, all kinds of different messages to, again, engage them. And we ran a Duck Soup campaign where we got about 25 to 30% connection, which for somebody kind of opening a cold email was pretty impressive. So we were pretty happy with how that worked out. Now
I'll also add that Duck Soup has figured out a way to circumvent the limitations of LinkedIn, meaning if you're limited to sending 100 invitations a week, Duck Soup, I mean, I've seen it send out 250 before the LinkedIn catches on. So there are a lot of benefits to it.
Yeah. The other thing that Duck Soup can do is they can send out a sequence. So you can send out a series of messages to your LinkedIn contacts. And then when you download, you're downloading a full profile. So you're not just getting the name, address, and potentially email, but you're getting the schools they went to, their titles, the companies they've worked for, education. So you're getting a much richer set of data. Now, from there, one of the questions is, okay, so how do you find your email address? So the tool Apollo.io creates or provides the email addresses. And so you're able to use Apollo to ingest names from LinkedIn and Duck Soup, and then use Apollo to do email sequencing and email messages. So again, another tool that's not that expensive, but you can also generate lists. So if you are looking for the names of potential partners, so for example, I had a client that was looking for the names of resellers for managed file transfer. We were able to find other products. We ran the queries, and sure enough, we were able to export the list from Apollo of the names of those potential partners, and we then could reach out to them and say, here's what we propose. Here's the value to you, Mr. Partner, of why you should talk to us and take on our product. And you're not going to get 1,000, but if you get 10%, 20%, or 30% engagement, then we'll be generating dozens or hundreds of leads based on your pipeline. All right. So that's sort of the general overview of lead generation technologies. Now there's some sort of off the, behind the door, behind the curtain kind of things that people do, and things that we've done in the past. One of the ways is to find the right people. And if you find somebody who is knowledgeable in an area that you need to go into or understand. They could be a reporter. So if you read an article about a topic that you're interested in, find that reporter, connect with them, set up a phone call with them. An author of a white paper or a book, reach out to them, again, pick their brain. And then analysts, industry analysts, stock analysts are probably less accessible, but you can find them on LinkedIn, and I've had really good luck in engaging analysts, chatting with them and forming kind of long-term relationships with them. And they're looking for sources, as are reporters, of news and information and opinion. So if you can provide that to them, then your relationship is a lot more symbiotic. People on webinars and online conferences. We went to an online conference probably a year ago. It was in an area that we were interested in. The people attending the conference basically were prospects of ours. And, as we saw their names pop up, we wrote their names down. We then went to LinkedIn. We linked into them immediately. We said, hey, we saw you at this conference. We wanted to connect with you. And I think we probably got 50 connections based on a single day, all of people who were active and interested in the exact same market niche that we were trying to get into. So that worked pretty well, and it seems to be an acceptable, trick these days. An older trick is beating a competitor. So if there is a partner, typically a reseller, that you want to sign up, and they are hesitant about signing you up because you have a new technology or you're a smaller company, one of the things that we found successful is we beat them at a deal and then go back to them and say, we beat you at this particular deal, and we will do it again unless you sign up with us. And you do it once, and that's about the end of it. They will sign up with you, and if you're able to do that, you can win some very successful and influential partners that way. If you don't get leads from your investors, you definitely need to ask. Your investors should be people that can open doors for you, that can have deep Rolodexes. And if you're looking at different investors, one of the things I would ask as a qualifying question is, who do you know in my market? How many people do you know? Who can you introduce me to? And as you have marketing and sales people, those investors should be helping your marketing and sales people open doors and provide leads for you. And then the last one is when you're in the office. So if you're going to visit somebody in their office space, which is starting to come back, and they say, can I get you something to drink or to eat? Do you want some coffee? The rule is you always say yes, and then you follow them to the kitchen. So basically you get to walk around their office, you get to bump into people in their kitchen, and half a dozen times at least, salespeople that I've worked with have bumped into the CFOs of their prospects in the kitchen, getting a cup of coffee. They chat with the CFO, they introduce themselves, they tell them why they're there. They take the cup of coffee and they pour it. Once they're done, they leave it in the conference room, or they pour it down the drain. I had one guy who said he was drinking 8 cups of coffee, 8 cups of tea a day, and eventually he just couldn't drink that much. But he was very successful in meeting people in the lunchrooms. So anyway, I'll pause. Any questions?
It doesn't look like there are any in the chat, and no one's queued up. I will take this time just to say to the group to please use the chat function to network with each other. I didn't mention that earlier. So if you haven't introduced yourself yet, take some time to copy paste your LinkedIn URL and let us know who you are and why you're here. Okay, Steve, take it away.
All right. So this particular slide are some resources that we've bumped into over the last year that I think are helpful for smaller companies, startup companies. And so I would suggest is, a takeaway, spend a little time on these websites, take a look at them, see if they're fits for what you're working on, and use them as, part of your education to keep abreast of what's, going on out there. Promonio is a partner of ours, really interesting way to optimize your marketing spend. So if you have limited dollars, as everybody does on marketing, the folks at Promonio can be very helpful in optimizing that spend. So, definitely worth a little bit of time, and, maybe a conversation or two. Duck Soup, I think we've spoken about. Blue Seedling is a website that's kind of a CMO website. They have really good materials online, sample emails, sample marketing strategies, tend to be more for technology companies, and they're headquartered out of Israel. But they were recommended to me when we got started, and they've been really interesting. Next one, Go Tolstoy. This is a new product. Basically, it is merging video with kind of training or customer support. And it's kind of hard to describe, but when you go and you create a Go Tolstoy, you'll have a 15-second, 20-second, 25-second video describing what you do. And then from there, the viewer will have a choice of going to 3-4 other different topics. So if they want to learn about features, they can click on a feature video, and then the next video pops up. If they want to talk about pricing, they can click on pricing, and then a little video about pricing will pop up. If they want to go to your website to get a demo, they can click on a link, and it'll take you to a demo. So it's kind of an example of how more and more marketing and sales and prospecting is being done via video. So if you don't have kind of a video strategy or skills in video, I'd suggest finding somebody, in your network who is a video expert, and can help you get that done. So that's Go Tolstoy. Unusual Ventures is a VC firm. They have a really useful document. It's their field guide. Again, it's a marketing, sales, business planning training tool. It's one of those places that, on a afternoon over a weekend, if you have a little extra time or you're on an airplane flight, definitely worth time to scroll through and kind of learn what they're doing. They've hired some, successful startup people, and their material is recent and fairly fresh. And then the last two are lead generation services. Leads Picker is a soup to nuts. You tell them what you want and who you want to talk to, and they will do the big data crunching. They'll use their AI to find the right people to talk to, the right companies to talk to, and then they have a team of inside salespeople who will set up the meetings. So basically, what you will get is you'll get a list on your calendar of, here's a sales prospect, here's who you want to talk to, or here's a partner prospect who you want to talk to, here's their background, and it's set up for 10 a.m. on Tuesday. So they hand that to you on a platter. The last one, Impactable, is a service that not very expensive, it's relatively cheap, but they will manage your kind of Duck Soup implementation or Sales Navigator implementation and automation. They will work with you on your profile. They'll help you create your messaging. And then once every couple of weeks, they'll check in to make sure that you are getting the leads that they've set up for you. We use LinkedIn Learn and Impactable, and we were getting between 25 and 35% response rates on our on our messages. So the connectivity was really good. We fine-tuned the messaging because they didn't know the messaging as well as we did. So we had to rewrite some of their messaging, which I think is always a good practice. But they were surprisingly successful in getting people to engage and generate leads. And I think their cost was like $300 a month or something. So really cheap for finding really good leads. So with that, a quick call to action. Go back to from the down in the trenches level to the higher level. Create the plan. Think ahead in terms of your partnerships. Build the processes out. So actually, use the tools in the whiteboard, and just figure out how A goes to B goes to C, and make sure that you have all those pieces connected. And then just keep up, because these applications and tools and even methods of both partnership and lead generation, they seem to change every couple of weeks. There's a new trend or a new idea or a new tool out there that we try to keep in touch with. And then if you need anything from us, feel free. Our emails and phone numbers are there, and we're happy to talk with you about any specific questions or issues you have. We work with mainly, as we said, international companies coming to the U.S., but we're happy to do a little pro bono work for some students that are out there that have questions. So with that, I'm going to take a breath, and we can open it up. We have a few minutes left, I think.
Yeah, we do. Let me just see if I can. I'm gonna stop your screen share, except I don't know how to do it on my darn MacBook Air. There we go. Thank you. So I have a question. It's just about common misconceptions. I feel like everyone has just a sour taste in their mouth when it comes to sales. And I'm just wondering, is there anything that you can say, or are there common misconception about sales that you'd like to straighten out for the group? It's just such a,
I would say if you have a technology product, use your technology person as your salesperson. So have your sales engineer be your salesperson, and then the sales guy basically is a coordinator. The last company I was at, our SEs did most of the selling, and did most of the convincing. That the prospects we had were salespeople, or were technical people, so they had no respect for salespeople. I mean, you're right. Salespeople, in some situations, don't get any respect, and you just got to deal with that, because you're not going to change somebody's preconceived notion on a fast call or a quick email. That credibility, if it comes from at a company level, that the company brand and the company product and the company website are all credible, then that will definitely help. But there are some cases where a sales rep is just not the right person and not the right way to engage. Does that address your question?
Yeah. All right, we have a question from Tim. Tim, go ahead.
Well, Steve, how would you comment on the post-pandemic and concurrent exodus of a lot of people from the workplace? We're finding that as providers, but with sales mentalities, people are looking to us more and more just to keep them out of the weeds, because everybody's so strapped for resources and they've lost a lot of tribal knowledge. We're trying to leverage that by being good partners.
Well, right. So one of the ways a salesperson can, be helpful and productive is to play that role as a consultant. So, if I have a client that I can help and take some of the work off their plate, if I can, help them draft an email or help them draft a presentation, that they can then use to sell internally, that's definitely a positive role. I mean, the kind of the other side of that question is, selling in person has really shifted in the last 2 years, and selling via Zoom has kind of taken over. And I think a huge percentage of sales these days is going to be via Zoom. So, get good at Zoom, make sure you have the right Zoom presence and the right Zoom activity. And, that seems to be the way the trend is moving forward. Tim, was there another question or side follow-up to that?
Doesn't seem like. I did want to say hi to Dave Eastman. I'm not sure if he's 100% with us. He's always on these calls and sometimes busying himself. He's a very busy man. Dave, are you there?
Of course I'm here. How can you ask?
I know that these guys are not just connections to VSG, but personal relationship connections to you. And so I thought you might want to say a little something.
Yeah.
No, really appreciate the time that you guys are spending here. As I think everybody realizes in the startup land, sales is the ultimate challenge. You can have the best product in the world, and if nobody wants it, you got nothing. So, and it's also perhaps the least intuitive skill for technology-based founders. So what you're doing here is very, very much appreciated.
You're welcome.
Thank you, David.
Yeah, on that note, I mean, do you have like some parting, very practical advice you can give to someone just kind of barely, breaking into sales? They finally have done enough customer discovery. They believe they have a good fit for their market, and they're just, like you mentioned, kind of creating that process. Any practical advice?
Well, I think we're all in this together. If you don't like sales and you don't like presenting, you're not alone. I'm not a sales guy
Per se.
I came out of accounting and working numbers and operations and working spreadsheets, and just through repetition, you'll get more and more comfortable with the material and the presentation. So that's one thing I would say is, you're not alone out there and in not enjoying sales. The other thing I would say, though, is it provides you an opportunity to add value to the people you're talking to be helpful and friendly. So that's the part of sales I really like. So when Nasser and I are talking to clients and they said, I really are having this problem with X, Y, and Z, if we have a solution or an idea or a contact that can help them with that problem, I feel like that was a successful call because we made their lives a little bit better, a little bit easier. So I would look at it from maybe that perspective of being able to be a helpful consultant and advisor to your prospects and
soft. The go soft. I mean, nobody likes hard sell, and so I would just say you got to build that rapport. You got to build that credibility. You have to be willing to just forego a sale and just help people, because then I think, I believe what goes around comes around. People will remember that and they will come back and help you someday. I'm not a salesman either. And I know it's really hard when you're selling something that you yourself don't really believe in, which is often a big problem. But if it's something that's really going to add value to the customer, I think that's makes it a lot easier to engage and to sell.
Good advice. I'm just going to really quickly shamelessly plug our next chat. It's going to be how to build a compelling deck with our good friend Liana. That is, I think it's in like 2 weeks, and the details for that is in the chat, but I'll send it out in my follow-up email with the video of this presentation. We do have one more question. We're about at time. Let's make this the last question. It's Tyler. Go for it, Tyler.
Hi, Steve. Sorry if we're running over. I just have a quick question about, so I'm currently developing a sales strategy for a startup, and I have a good idea of who our target customer is going to be, and we're building this platform. But I'm looking for a little advice on. I don't want to, and sorry if there's extra noise around me. I'm sitting on campus right now. A little advice on. I don't want to waste some like powder or per se with people I'm going to be making connections with, and before like the official product is ready. So do you think it's a good idea to kind of wait it out and develop the sales strategy and have all my templates made? Or do you think it's good to kind of make first interest and start building relationships early on in the process?
So I think connecting with people early and often is a better way to go. To define your product, to find your ideas, to bounce your ideas off people. I found people are fairly receptive to having short conversations, and they're happy to do it, even if you don't have a product yet. One of the interesting things is you can query on keywords. So if you were going to query on carbon offsets, you would get a list of people that are interested in carbon offsets or have experience in carbon offsets. So they're definitely out there to be found and to be had. And again, I wouldn't wait. I would use them as sounding boards and help you get definitions on your both personas and pain points, and have at it.
And also take advantage of being a student still, because people are not skeptical yet about or cynical yet about helping students.
That's so true.
Yeah.
One final question, guys, that I should have asked you before. Where on earth did the name Inner Onion come from?
Yeah, well, Dave, why don't you just we help you find your inner onion? That's what it comes down to. Well, it came from.
Are you implying, Nasser, that I make people cry every time that they get close to me?
Well,
that's true, but that's a different issue.
You're also great in a salad. So it came from a conversation we had with one of our early clients. Basically, he was talking about his product, and he said that it's like an onion. The more you peel, the more layers you discover. And so I thought that would be a real fun, name for a company.
And it's hard to forget.
It's hard to forget. And also, yes, as you say, it makes people cry, but people like how it tastes. And people do put them on their kitchen counters, so they can't be that unsightly.
The other way to think about it is the who, what, where, and how of your business, right? So people will understand the how you do your business. They'll understand the what of your product or your service, but really it's the why, which is the core of the onion, that is going to motivate people to come along with you on your journey to grow your business. So what we try to do in talking to clients is, okay, so what's really, motivating you to get your business up and out into the marketplace?
Yeah.
Hope that helps.
That is.
Thank you so much for your time, everybody. I really appreciate the attention and the opportunity. So we're, tickled to be here. And if there's anything down the road tomorrow or a year from now, feel free to reach out.
Please do.
So much, Steve and Nasser. And hopefully we'll see all of you guys in a couple weeks for our next Oceanside Chat. Goodbye, everybody.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye-bye now. Have a good week.
You too. Have a great one. Bye.